Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention?
Great Scott! There's no crying in baseball!
You better hold on tight, Spider Monkey.
This is where the fun begins.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. That's right. We're ranking Terrifier 3. Terrifier 3 is a 2024 American Christmas supernatural slasher film. On the days leading up to Christmas, Sienna Shaw attempts to rebuild her life while Art the Clown is pursuing her alongside his new accomplice, possessed Victoria Hayes. Now, I'm probably gonna say some things that people won't like about this movie, but we'll get into that, the 10 essential aspects of a movie. First is plot. Does the movie follow a comprehensive story arc and is plausible within the world that has been created? You're not watching it for the plot. And honestly, it isn't that interesting. If you're defending this movie because you feel it has a really interesting backstory going on and it's really in depth, you're lying to yourself because there's like no story. Nobody is watching this for the plot. It's quite honestly like a porno. You're not watching it for the story, are you? Are you? No, you're not. You're watching this movie to watch people get killed. You want to see them get murdered in these crazy ways. You want to see all the blood. You want to see how gory it gets. That's why you're watching this movie. The story is second. It is behind. Quite honestly, it felt like in the movie, everyone was just waiting for the next kill. No one cared about the conversations in between. Everybody just wanted it to move along, and that's exactly how this movie is made to be. I just think the story is very much second to the gore. Second is attraction. Does the movie have an interesting premise with a high entertainment value? It has shock value. I mean, it is shocking. If you are not used to watching gory movies, yeah, you might throw up. You might walk out of this movie. I mean, it is pretty graphic and pretty crazy. Outside of the shock value, I mean, once you get past watching like the second one, the third one to me wasn't very shocking. There wasn't anything new or crazy. There's a point. I mean, there's the bedroom scene in the second movie that once you see enough, I don't know how you step it up. I don't know what more there possibly is. And so the shock value was lost for me after watching this movie. And when that's lost, it really doesn't have much going on for the movie at all. Third is theme. What message or truth is the movie trying to convey? Honestly, I don't really think there's a theme or a message to this movie, but I do have a message. If you don't want to hear me rant on, I would go to dialogue, just skip ahead. But my message is, horror movies, they normally have some sort of story that is somewhat interesting or a message behind it to make you think a little bit. I would point out movies like Saw or Final Destination where, you know, Saw, he is torturing these people or killing these people, but he always gives them a chance to live, and he always tries to do something that is equal to the amount of pain that they caused in real life, and that these people aren't good people. So it makes you think a little bit. Even though it's still a movie about just watching people die, there's more to it than that. Final Destination, it's about understanding, you know, that people can't cheat death. It's the concept that even though if you were gonna die, it is your time, and you will die very quickly if you didn't die when you were supposed to. It's kind of interesting. It's thought-provoking. It's just a little more depth. That one is not as good as I would say Saw, but it still has a little more to it than just killing people and watching people die. This movie is not. I would argue that this movie has pretty much zero story to tell. All it is doing is showcasing, special effects and practical effects of people dying and making it look as real as possible. Now, I understand that there's some people that have some pride in that, and that is their job, is special effects, and that's all fine. But you have to have some story. There's no story in this. It's just watching people die in realistic ways, and personally, I don't see the value in that. I don't think it's good for your brain. I don't think it's good for you to just sit there and watch a movie purely to see people die in realistic ways. I think if that's the kind of movie you're watching and you love it, you might need to take a step back and think, I might have a screw loose. Like, this is not good. This is not healthy. You should not want to just watch people die in realistic ways. I know that it's just a movie, but they do such a good job, and it's so real that it just makes you feel gross. It's like, I shouldn't be watching this. If you feel that way, then you're on the right track. Then I think you're a sane human being. But if you don't feel that way, maybe take a look at why you feel that way. Maybe someone could tell me in the comments why it's so appealing. I could understand if it had a story, but honestly, just watching a movie to watch people die realistically, it just does not seem healthy for you as a person. Fourth is dialogue. Is there a real feel to the conversations? It's fine. The conversations, I would say, were good for the standard of a horror movie, but they're not doing anything new or that interesting. Fifth is acting. Are the characters convincing? Again, it's just mediocre. I do think that being a person who can show fear realistically is a hard thing to do as an actor, and I would say that they do a good job of showing fear and screaming. It doesn't seem bad. I've seen some cheap horror movies where the screaming and stuff is just god awful. This movie, it's not that way. It's pretty quality though, the way people are scared. So the acting's honestly pretty good, but it's just like the standard of horror movies that make it pretty good. 6 is cinematography. Is there a creative use of lighting, setting, and wardrobe to convey emotion? It conveyed emotion. It did what it was supposed to do. I mean, it was gross. Like, it was not great to watch. I don't know. It did a good job, I guess, doing what it was supposed to do. There's some good practical effects. It doesn't look that cheesy at some points. I mean, there's only so far you can go, but I would say compare this to a lot of cheap horror movies. It looks way better than a lot of cheap horror movies. It also it had this filter over the film the whole time, and it made it look old, more like a classic like 80s or 90s slasher movie. I like that. I thought it was an interesting choice, and I thought it fit for the style that they were going for. It also had some points where Art was funny. People said he was kind of funny in the last couple movies. I didn't really find him that funny. This one I did. There were a couple points that I chuckled at. I thought what he was doing was pretty funny. It is somewhat helpful as a comedic relief to all the violence going on, but it's not enough. It's pretty disturbing. They did a pretty good job. I think that's what they were going for. 7th is editing. This is all about the pace of the movie. The movie is 2 hours and 5 minutes long. People complain about the last one being too long. This one, it's too long because I didn't really enjoy it that much. I would say it's fine if all you're looking for is to watch kills. The reason it's so long is the kills take like 8 minutes for people to die, if not longer sometimes, and there's quite a few in this movie, so it's long for me because I didn't like it. But if that's what you enjoy, if that's what you're watching, then you're probably gonna like how long it is. 8th is soundtrack. The soundtrack to this movie, honestly, at the moments that it was playing, was pretty good. I actually liked it. I liked the music when it played, and I really noticed it. I thought it was well done. It just wasn't very prevalent throughout the entire movie, but when it was there, I thought it was pretty good music. 9th is directing. I feel the director is in charge of the previous 8 aspects. They're the one that's got to put it all together, give it the stamp of approval, and make a good movie. Now, the director is Damien Leone, and this was his 4th film. His previous 3 films were Frankenstein versus the Mummy, Terrifier 2, and finally Terrifier 3. Now, obviously, this guy knows what he wants to do. He's a horror film director. He is the one that created Terrifier. He did a lot of the practical effects. He was pretty much involved in every aspect of the movie. In the previous 2 movies, I think he took a step back in this movie, but still had his hands on stuff. You know, for a horror movie director, I think he is good. I think he understands what people like as far as, absurdity and going over the top with kills. And this is his baby. This is his creation, Art the Clown. So I think the purpose that he was going for, he achieved, and he is a good director at achieving what he is wanting to get out of it, and obviously people enjoyed the concept. I would like to see him put a lot more story into it, and maybe people just don't care. Maybe it's like the movie where it's just one set to another. It would be more interesting to me if he just went a little more in depth. It's just a story of good versus evil, and it's very plain, and there's nothing to it really other than just the murders. And maybe that's just all he wants to do, but I would be interested to see if he could flex that muscle as a director. 10th is time. Will it stand the test of time? Honestly, it will probably stand the test of time as, one of the goriest films that has been made and widely watched, but honestly, no. It's not that good. It doesn't have a good story. The gore is good, but that's pretty much it. There's no reason for it to stand the test of time. I just think it's another forgettable horror movie, but there are horror fans out there that will keep it alive for a long time. Now for the review section. Rotten Tomatoes critics gives it a 74. The audience gives it an 88, and IMDb gives it a 71. Personally, I think 88 is way too high, but obviously the people that are going to watch this movie are the ones that like horror films. They know what they're getting, they know what they want. They want gore, they want horror. That's what they went and got. So obviously 88 is exactly where they want to be, but objectively, as just a film compared to all other films, 71 and 74 are honestly way too high as well. I guess you could just put them there for the sense that there's nothing horrible that went wrong with the movie, but personally, I think a plot problem is one of the bigger problems when it comes to a movie. So I would probably put it more in like the 50s to 60s range. It's not that good of a movie. I might even go lower. I just feel like it's just not that good, and people are hyping it up for the fact that it's just shocking. Alright, finally for the rankings. For the year of 2024, out of 19 total movies on the entertainment side, I have it 18th, just below Frogman and above Reagan. Now, this is just not my cup of tea. And a lot of people would put this higher, I'm sure, but I'm not, just because it is not a movie I will watch again, ever. And it's not a movie I think that's very healthy for you. It's just not very good. I just won't watch it again. I have it below Frogman. Frogman I would watch again because it's so silly. It's not that it's necessarily that great of a movie, but the idea is so silly and crazy, and the last 15 minutes really save it for me. I didn't really enjoy any part of Terrifier 3. I enjoyed like the last 10 minutes of Frogman, but not Terrifier 3. It's above Reagan. This one's hard for me because I had a hard time watching Reagan. It was really, really, really boring. I did not like it. And Terrifier 3, I just don't think I was as bored. It was pretty dang boring, and I was ready for it to end. But Reagan, I don't know. It hit me wrong. That movie was just so terrible, and I did not like it. It was kind of hard. Honestly, if you switch them, I wouldn't mind. But I just settled on thinking that Terrifier 3, if I had to watch one again, the practical effects are at least interesting, and it gets me thinking about how movies are made. Reagan, I just wanted to, I was done. Cinematically, out of 19 total movies, I have it 16th, just below Ghostbusters, Frozen Empire, and above Borderlands. Now, I try to think somewhat objectively when it comes to cinematography. It's not as personal of a ranking, it's more about how movies are represented. Personally, I thought Terrifier 3 had some plot problems. Not that it was convoluted, but it just was uninteresting, and it told practically nothing. There was no reason to make another one other than to just make more murders. That's it. So I put it below Ghostbusters because Ghostbusters has a world. I did think they messed up the plot. I do think that it was a little all over the place and they should have honed it in. But it does have the world of Ghostbusters. It has the previous movies to go back on. I think that represents film in some sort of way that's good. It's just that movie itself has specific problems. I put it above Borderlands because they're really the same in the fact that Borderlands plot sucked, wasn't very interesting. They ruined the the background story, there's a whole world that they were supposed to play off of, and they just barely touched it, and I didn't think it was that interesting. But visually, it was appealing. Terrifier 3, to some, it's visually appealing. I don't want to get too biased in how much I just hated the movie personally. I do think it did some things for film in the sense that it is bumped it up. It's bumped up that the expectation of gore and how realistic kills must be. It did something for film. It just didn't do a whole lot. There's a lot of things that were just okay or bad. Nothing really that great other than just the practical effects. For the decade of the 2020s, on the entertainment side, out of 20 total movies, it's going to be 19th, just below Frogman and above Reagan. It's there for the exact same reasons as before. For cinematically, out of 20 total movies, it's going to be 17th, just below Ghostbusters Frozen Empire and above Borderlands. Just like the previous, it's the exact same reasons as before. Now, for all time, out of 29 total movies, on the entertainment side, I have it 28th, just below Frogman and above Reagan. I know I'm just a record at this point, but it's the same exact reasons. When you get to the bottom, they're all kind of the same, and I just put them in a place and keep them there just because, honestly, it doesn't really matter where you place them. I just place them for something really random and small, but it's at the bottom of the list. It's just something I won't watch again. Cinematically, out of 29 total movies, it is 26th, just below Paranormal Activity, Ghost Dimension, and above Borderlands. I put it below Paranormal Activity. Paranormal Activity has its problems, plenty of problems, but it does have a scene. There was definitely one scene that I remember that gave me goosebumps. That was just a good storytelling, and it had a little emotion. The rest of the movie is honestly quite boring, but I'm just kind of honing in on that little part where Terrifier 3, I mean, it just doesn't do anything new. Sure, it made me feel like a little ew, that's a little gross, but honestly, it's not enough, and I don't think that's really that great or necessarily that hard to do, especially for them as they've done it before. That's all I've got for Terrifier 3. Did you love the movie? If you love the movie, tell me why. Why do you watch a movie that has pretty much no story and is just about people dying? Do you think that is good for you? Shout out to my best friend, Dom, who he does Basso movie reviews. He helped me make the new intro, and he does his own movies, so feel free to go check him out. And he's going to do a Terrifier 3 review, so go check him out, go see what he thought about the movie. He's somebody that does enjoy the gore more than I did, so we'll see. I haven't seen where he ranks it, but he does the exact same thing as me as far as ranking in the year, decade, and all time, so go check him out. Make sure you comment a movie that you want me to review next. Make sure to subscribe if you want to see that movie be reviewed. But otherwise, I'm Mr. Majoritarian. Stay classy, San Diego.